So as you know, this class is called Human Capital, or has the words human capital in it. What I want to do is spend some time talking about some of the words that are used around the human aspects of organizations. In particular, three. There's human capital management, there's human resources management, and there's talent management. Um, my view is I think the background of a lot of this has to do with the human aspects of organizations getting quote unquote a seat at the table. I think that's been a goal for a long time of people who deal with the human aspects, human resource professionals, that the organizations start looking at the people side of the business strategically, just like they look at the finances strategically. And so that's been a struggle to some extent, partially because uh, there's a huge emphasis, obviously, on operational and on financial aspects of organizations, and the human aspect is sort of taken for granted. Um, I think that what's happened is that organizations have, and fields like human resources have looked for words to try to emphasize the importance. And so a lot of times these three terms are used synonymously: human capital management, human resource management, talent management. They've all been used to try to generate essentially that importance and that interest in the human strategic elements of an organization, which is absolutely, absolutely critical. And unfortunately, it's not focused on enough. But there are distinctions between these terms. Um, Human resource management, the traditional human resource management, it's probably the broadest term for looking at aspects of the human elements within organizations. So it includes not only things like uh, the human potential, which also kind of branches off into a field called um, um, uh, talent development or human resource development. But it encompasses things about compensation and benefits. Encompasses things like union negotiations and some of the more operational aspects of the human side of business. And that's the term that's probably used most often. Talent management has come along to replace the word human resources. I don't like the word human resources because I don't think that we're resources. I think that we're human beings. And if you think about it, when we talk about human resources, I mean, same thing with employee. It implies that human beings are a part of the machine. They're just a resource, just like a table or a computer, or they're an employee. They're used by the employer, the user. And so there's been sort of a reaction against that. And that's why a lot of people use the words talent management rather than human resource management. Now, human capital is a little bit different. Again, it's been used as a substitute for human resource management, but it is different, as you probably can tell from some of the reading that we're doing. The original origins of it had really didn't have anything to do with things like compensation and benefits. It's really the potential that people have, mostly through things like education and their abilities to contribute to the increased profits or the increased success of an organization. So there's a heavy, heavy emphasis on human potential. Now, where it's gone to is a lot of people include compensation and benefits and some of the other traditional human resource elements into it. I don't think that that's really what it's about. But also, if you look at the term critically, again, human capital, capital implies that the organization essentially owns that and uses that to its advantage. So again, there's some challenge in terms of the words. There's another element called social capital, which is essentially the potential or the earning potential or the growth potential that is contributed to by the relationships and the social interactions that people have within organizations or within groups. So it gets kind of complicated. What we're going to not necessarily focus on human capital as human resource management. We're not going to talk about compensation and benefits. We're not going to talk about some of the operational aspects of human resources because I don't think that that's what human capital is really about. We're going to talk more about the strategic elements that human beings bring to the table in terms of their abilities, in terms of their knowledge, um, um, to contribute to the success of an organization. So I wanted to bring that up because there's a lot of confusion about it, and it's going to continue changing. There are going to be more terms that come up. So I wanted to make sure that you recognize that these are not very clearly defined and that they're not very clearly identified as well.